Продовжуємо.
Without break for the weekend, we continue our press briefings now. Canon Lysenko.
ATO zone, прошу, пане Андрію.
The floor is yours, Colonel. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. In the territory of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, terrorist fighters make more intensive shelling and fire against positions of Ukrainian forces in the ATO and the Baltsovo, Donetsk, Luhansk, Mariupol, and Bakhmutivsky main roads, Bakhmut main roads areas. Yesterday we had shown from the territory of the Russian Federation 2215. They fired at Ukrainian units deployed between Yuhanivka and Gerasimivka of Stanitsa Luhansky district. That was the Russian artillery shelling. Another time the military convoys were dispatched to Ukraine across the border bound for Luhansk. There was shelling at the Baltsovo in village Holmivsky at the Baltsovo. There was shelling from volley fire units Grad Hail, and also firing at road posts and communities from mortars and grand launchers. Our military officers repelled attacks and destroyed the fire positions of the terrorists. In the future, the precision will be higher. Yesterday, the Speaker of Pentagon, Colonel Steve Warren, announced provision of radio systems that can find direction and locate the mortars of the adversary. This is the first batch that will consist of 20 units to be supplied in the forthcoming weeks. In the Donetsk area, yesterday, terrorist fighters were shelling and firing from mortars and tanks and small arms at our positions in Mariinsky, Sinovatsky districts, and also there was another attempt to attack the airport. In the same area, other places were attacked from artillery, mortars, and firearms. Terrorist attacks at the airport in Donetsk was repelled, and terrorists had big casualties. And in Mariupol area, terrorists from Grad Hails shelled at Ukrainian positions. At Olhenk, in some villages, they used artillery, mortars, and firearms. At Luhansk, terrorist fighters fired and shelled at positions of the Ukrainian forces from artillery and mortars. They still have some shelling at Bakhmut main road and shelling from Grads at Popasna and some other communities. Well, yesterday we lost 4 military officers, 10 were wounded. There were no engagements at the border beyond the bounds of ATO area. Illegal military groupings and Russian units reintroduced drones, reconnaissance efforts, and also they used aircrafts at Krasnotalivka in Luhansk Oblast. A flight was registered in the territory of the Russian Federation along the Ukrainian border of aircraft with the distant direction finding equipment. And also at Satana, a drone was observed in the area Mariupol-Pavlovka to Halitska Brigade of the National Guards of Ukraine. 2 battalions of mobilized officers arrived. The units were formed at the end of August this year. They were all trained for the operational action after term spent in the ATO. The officers will take their leave and then come back to the operations. Terrorists continue shelling at Ukrainian communities and killing peaceful civilians in Luhansk Oblast, Chernuhin, Trохizbenka, Krimske, Popasska, Olykhove, Makarova, Petrivka were attacked. At Shastya, artillery shells destroyed the automatic water distribution unit. The water supplies were discontinued, and at Luhansk, one residential house was destroyed, and the span of gas pipeline and the transmission lines. Two boiler units were put out of order, and they provided heating for a kindergarten and a school and other premises. It is impossible to repair the systems because of the active combat at Zolote. A 60-year-old civilian was killed. Yesterday, terrorists attacked with rockets Debaltseva. 5 people were wounded, 5 civilians were wounded, 20 residential houses destroyed, and the center. During all the night, terrorists used Grad and Hurricane Wally fire systems. The powerful Wally was had at 2245. Fortunately, a couple of rockets did not explode, and now the sappers are removing them for further destruction. That is done by specialists from the Ministry for Emergencies. Donetsk Oblast State Administration are conducting constant monitoring of the destroyed and damaged facilities in the ATO. So now we have 172,000 people in the region without housing, water, gas, and power. The pyrotechnical units of the State Service for Emergencies identified and seized 34 artillery shells and 26 units of other explosives, 60 in total. 2.6 hectare territories were examined, and also in total 1,540 hectares were examined, and so they identified and seized 28,000 pieces of ammunition. We are calling upon residents of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast to please be careful, because terrorists continue ignoring humanitarian international rules and international convention in the face of use of ammunition, and they keep installing landmines in the territories at communities. Out of the 4 Ukrainian officers who died, 2 exploded on landmines at Shastya. And our losses from such explosions and explosives of different types are comparable to the casualties from fighting and shelling, mass shelling. So according to the order of the ATO, I command the anti-subversive measures have been substantially reinforced, and we are calling upon residents of the occupied territories to be careful, because in communities they have clashes, engagements among different bands of terrorists, and on many occasions civilians fell victims of such combats. The counterintelligence of the Security Service of Ukraine, together with the Horlivka Division of Intelligence for Defense Ministry, apprehended leader of subversive group Rusici from so-called Donetsk People's Republic. Born in 1977, his nickname was Cat. He had the topographic maps on him with the road posts of Ukraine marked on them. Another group of 20 terrorist combatants was destroyed, originally coordinated by the FSB of the Russian Federation. It consisted predominantly of the Russian nationals who were trained in special camps. The plans were undefined for subversions against Ukrainian military officers. The FSB officer with the nickname Sasha trained subversives to commit an attack at Avdiivka, Donetsk Oblast. They tried to mine one of the motorways and attack Ukrainian road post. The railway station of North Kharkiv was had an explosion last night. The residents reported that explosion at village Kharkiv. It was at 2230, and the railway tracks, the cistern, and the assistance with lubricants and fuels did not suffer from the explosion. We have about 2 square kilometers of the area, and now they are having some investigative measures there. About the international support, President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, had a meeting with the Vice President of the U.S., Joseph Biden. During this meeting, they discussed threats to sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Joseph Biden emphasized it is intolerable in the 21st century for one country to try to change borders with force, and because they don't like decisions taken by their neighboring country. The U.S. will never recognize occupation. It's an occupation and attempt at annexation of the Crimea. Vice President of assured us that if Ukraine were to stay the course, the U.S. would render all the support. Petro Poroshenko and Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, discussed situation in Donbass. They agreed to continue operations of the trilateral contact group for possible implementation of Minsk Accord for peaceful settlement of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast conflict. Secretary General of NATO Jens Stoltenberg announced that the alliance were watching the movements of personnel and military machinery of the Russian forces. We register movement of troops, tanks, artillery, and system of anti-aircraft defense. We can see convoys that are approaching the delineation lines. This undermines Minsk Accords and deepens the conflict, said Mr. Stoltenberg. He summoned Russia, called upon the authorities to de-escalate the situation and to withdraw the forces. Secretary General of NATO had said that he wasn't to speculate on the actual aims of the Russian concentration of the troops, but called upon respect to all the parties to respect sovereignty of Ukraine and territorial integrity and the international law. Speaker of the German government, Stefan Seibert, announced Russia acts in Ukraine without any consideration of the Ukrainian interest, any cancellation of the Ukrainian government, and provides active support for separatists. This is a very aggressive financial military support that is provided by Russia to terrorists. 1+1, Otis, and I would like to clarify the Debaltsevo case and about the people who suffered. How many of them did you have, and how many military officers out of them? There are no statistics on our casualties. It was mostly civilians because the blow was, the impact was at the center with very powerful systems of anti-aircraft fire. Are there any further questions? Maria Fedenko, the Fifth Channel. There's devices that we are about to receive from the U.S. When will they arrive and be deployed? And will we be able to help our military officers with them? The radar systems help identify and locate instantaneously the location from which mortar is fired, and identify the distance and the coordinates. So it's a matter of seconds for direction finding, for spotting and shooting in response. And the units and the mortar cannot relocate, and they immediately destroyed. Such units are on their way, as far as I know, already in the territory of Ukraine. But we plan that we will receive 20 units for the effective utilization of Ukrainian personnel are now being trained for the purpose under the guidance of U.S. experts for effective operations of such units. How much is it in a month? I'm not prepared to talk about the exact deadline or the period for training, but it's a very fast track. Valentin Novachenko, head of SBU of Ukraine, said that they destroyed last Thursday 17 terrorists. Is there any information on the number of terrorists destroyed by ATO forces starting from the very beginning of the operations as of today? We have no final data on the number of terrorists destroyed over this period. Memorial, I have a question. The radar systems, shouldn't they be kept secret? Because the terrorist combatants will be ready to receive and repel. The point is that this is not secret. These are devices that will help us with more effective response to attempts to shell at our position. Sooner they know, more likely it is that they will stop such attempts. And you registered the second time of one day shelling from the Russian territory. Are there any measures taken to take decision of the Russian of the National Security and Defense Council? We are expecting some reaction from the Russian Federation to the approach made by the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the territory of Russian Federation. They fight at the positions of the Ukrainian forces in the territory of Ukraine. Is it registered by OSCE? I'm not prepared to say this, so you have to ask OSCE experts. We'll see their reports and find out. The Balto was sheltered from that territory of Donbass. And NATO, according to NATO information, Russia is moving some forces to the delineation lines. Yes, we have information on movement and rotation of certain units. There's some concentration of personnel and military machinery, but we have enough time to respond to that and to apply countermeasures. No further questions. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll have another briefing, as usual, at 12:30 noon.